Welcome to Monograph Matters. Today we have a discussion with Alexis McCraw, author of the SRCD Monograph on Dynamic Field Theory of Executive Function, identifying early neurocognitive markers. This discussion focuses on the importance of diversity in developmental science research. The current trend in developmental research is greater consideration of diversity in study samples. Why is it important to include a diverse sample in developmental research, and what does it look like to actively commit to collecting diverse samples?
Yeah, that's a really important question. For a very long time, we have defaulted to samples of white, Western, middle-class individuals in all branches of psychology. And this pattern is especially hard to break in the developmental field for many reasons. First, the ability to even bring your child in to participate in a study conveys a certain level of privilege. You have to know that institutions like this exist, and you have to have the free time to bring your children in for a study. So obviously this can be very difficult, as most labs only operate during business hours. The vast majority of our participants are brought in by their stay-at-home mothers. This is the status quo for much of the developmental research being conducted at universities, and I think it's very important for us to try to disrupt this. Second, in many marginalized communities, for obvious reasons that we're not going to get into now, there's often an inherent distrust in doctors, medicine, and research, which further isolates groups from studies. I and the members of our lab have several projects in the early stages of planning that attempt to address some of these barriers. For one, we want to bring mobile FNIR systems into preschool classrooms to collect a larger and more representative sample in a way that does not place added burden onto the parents. We also hope to implement research participation in clients' homes, after-school programs, or even community outreach events. Speaking of outreach events, I think it's essential for the University of Tennessee Psychology Department to become a familiar face to the families in the Knoxville area. The best way to encourage recruitment is to garner interest and, most importantly, build trust within the community itself. We have a longstanding presence in several annual community events and have recently made an effort to participate in more regular activities like library read-alongs, farmers markets, and other similar events. In the future, I'd like to see us spreading the word about our research to churches, daycares, YMCAs, and anywhere else that may let us recruit. All that being said, it is vital to collect data from diverse samples for a lot of reasons. Namely, we can see a lot of implicit bias within the data collection and interpretation, and it would also allow us to gain better understanding of how sociocultural influences might impact children's performances on cognitive measures. Oftentimes, tests like these have been used to further marginalize certain groups. We know that tests are the problem and not the kids taking them. And the only way to ensure that we are creating measures that actually test the behaviors we're assessing is by administering them to children of all backgrounds. So I'll give an example of kind of what I'm talking about. A very common assessment of vocabulary ability in children is the Peabody Picture Vocabulary Test. Just in case you're not familiar with it, this test requires children to look at objects and then name them out loud. Because the test was created and validated exclusively using white children, many of the vocabulary words in the original test were unfamiliar to Black children, which led many of them to be given artificially low IQ scores. And in many instances, this caused Black children to be incorrectly placed in special education classrooms or blocked from academic opportunities that their white peers were afforded. As I'm sure everyone can agree, occurrences like this are unacceptable, but a commitment to diversity does not stop just with behavioral measures. It is of vital importance to address another barrier to research for non-white individuals. Much of the neuroimaging or eye tracking equipment that we use in research labs is not adequately adaptable for recruitment with diverse samples. So for example, FNIRs that we use in our lab, this data collection relies on the ability for the sources and the detectors to lie directly on the scalp. Coarser, thicker, or darker hair from an individual means that it's harder to collect data. It's also true that certain hairstyles traditionally seen in Black communities, like buns, braids, or dreads, are not suitable for most FNIRS configurations. This is an extraordinary barrier that should be addressed by researchers. While the physical limitation is not exactly comparable to the issues of research design we see in the Peabody Picture Vocabulary Test, I think a true commitment to diversity in research includes developing ways to collect data from all individuals. This may look like a more intricate FNIRS CAP setup process, or even a complete revolution in the way that FNIRS data is collected at all. And unfortunately, these same issues arise in EEG or eye tracking data. According to a 2021 article by Choi and colleagues, participants with thicker, curlier hair are often excluded entirely from EEG research because it's just too difficult to get a good signal. Once again, this is an issue with the measurement and not the participant. And it's crucial that we address these shortcomings within the equipment that we use, and just in general to make our research a more welcoming and diverse community.
Read more about this topic in the monograph issue, Dynamic Field Theory of Executive Function, Identifying Early Neurocognitive Markers by Alexis McCraw, Aaron Buss, et al. If you like this video, consider watching our Monograph Matters playlist. For additional resources related to this and other issues of the monographs of the Society for Research in Child Development, please visit monographmatters.srcd.org.